Welcome in, dear friends. Thank you very much for joining me today. Hope that you guys are doing well, and I hope that you had a good NFL Divisional Round weekend. So, we have a lot of good stuff to talk about. We're going to go over all four of the games that were played in the NFL Divisional Round playoffs. We're going to talk about all of the teams. We're going to take a look and see which players stood out and which players had bad games. Um, we're going to just see what happened in those games. And I'm just going to give my take on each of the four games from divisional round weekend. So, specifically, we're going to talk about the big matchup between the Buffalo Bills and Denver Broncos. Josh Allen versus Bo Nix. The game goes to overtime and just an amazing game to watch. We're going to talk about the San Francisco 49ers going up against the Seattle Seahawks. Brock Purdy versus Sam Darnold. And this one, it was a big blowout. So we're going to take a look at that. And then on Sunday, we had a big game between the New England Patriots and the Houston Texans. So it was Drake May versus CJ Stroud. A lot of turnovers, bad weather in that game. And on Sunday night, we had a huge matchup between the Los Angeles Rams and the Chicago Bears. Matthew Stafford versus Caleb Williams. And this game as well went to overtime. Just an amazing game as well. So, just an amazing weekend in the NFL. And we're going to jump into all of that. In the second half of the show, we're going to look forward to the next round, the conference championships. And we're going to take a look at those two games. And we're going to make some predictions for those two games and pick our Super Bowl matchups. So we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. I'm very excited about this video and today's show. Before we jump into all of that, I would like to mention that on my YouTube channel, I create content about money, sports, and personal topics with the goal of bringing value to other people's lives. So if you guys find value in this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can continue making these videos. All right, let's go ahead and jump into NFL Divisional Round weekend. All right, guys, the first game we're going to jump into and talk about is the first game that was played this weekend in the Divisional Round. And it might have been the best game of the weekend. And it was the Buffalo Bills versus the Denver Broncos. Josh Allen versus Bo Nix. Josh Allen, established veteran, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, versus Bo Nix, who's only in his second season. So going into this game, I picked the Buffalo Bills to win the game just because I thought the quarterback discrepancy was too great, but that was not the case in this game. We had a huge shootout in this game. It was 30-30 at the end of regular time. It goes into overtime, and the Denver Broncos kick a field goal and get the win 33-30, and they move on to the AFC Conference Championship game. So just incredible game. Let's go ahead and check out the game leaders in this one. See how the guys played. All right. So for the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, he went 25 for 39, 283 yards. He had three touchdowns with two interceptions. He also had a couple of fumbles as well. So just not Josh Allen's best game for sure. He had some good moments. You know, he had the three touchdowns. He used his legs a few times, but he just had too many turnovers in this game that ended up costing him and his team. So disappointing performance by Josh Allen in this one. Their running back, James Cook, had a solid game with 117 yards rushing. Tight end, Dalton Kincaid had 83 yards receiving with one touchdown. Let's jump over to the Broncos side. Bo Nix, 26 for 46, 279 yards, three touchdowns, one interception. So I definitely think he outplayed Josh Allen in this one. He had less mistakes than Josh Allen did. So I was definitely very impressed by Bo Nix and his performance. He also had 29 yards rushing, and their wide receiver Mims had 93 yards receiving with one touchdown. So, a lot of good offense in this game. It was definitely very entertaining to watch, and it was probably the best game of the weekend, in my opinion. So, let's talk a little bit more about this game. So, again, um, I mean, I knew it was going to be a good game. I knew it was going to be close. Um, Denver Broncos, they're the number one seed in the AFC. They had a bye week, so all their players got to rest and had time to get healthy and get prepared. And they've been one of the best defenses in the NFL. Their head coach is really good, Sean Payton. And then on the other side, the Buffalo Bills, they were the sixth seed. So they didn't have the best regular season like the Broncos did. But I felt like with Josh Allen that the quarterback discrepancy was going to be too high, that Josh Allen is a lot better than Bo Nix. So even though the Denver Broncos as a team had all those advantages like the bye week, better defense, they were the home team. I just felt like Josh Allen was going to come through in this game and get a win for his team. Um, with Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow out of the playoffs, I felt like this was Josh Allen's one opportunity to win the Super Bowl. And I just felt like it was his moment, but that did not happen in this game. I mean, it wasn't Josh Allen's worst game. Like, he definitely had some good plays, and overall, he was pretty good, but he just had all these turnovers, interceptions, fumbles that ended up costing them the game. I definitely thought the Bills were going to win this game going into it, but the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix were better than expected. So in this game, I mean, initially it was pretty close, but right before half, the Buffalo Bills they got a little too aggressive. They wanted to score or try to score before the half with only a few seconds left. Josh Allen he scrambles and he fumbles the football. Denver Broncos recover and they were able to get squeeze in a field goal um, before halftime, and they had a 20-10 lead over the Bills. And I know it might not seem like a lot, 3 points at that time, but as you can see, the score ended up being a 3 point game. So just mistakes like that. And he also had a couple of other interceptions. And he kind of reverted back to the old Josh Allen, who used to fumble a lot and have a lot of turnovers. So just a disappointing performance by Josh Allen in this one, but a lot of credit to the Denver Broncos defense. And in the second half, the Bills definitely made it more competitive. Um, and it looked like they might win the game, but the game ended up being 30-30 at the very end. It goes to overtime. Both teams possess the football, but in the end, the Denver Broncos drive down the field. They attempt a field goal and they are successful and get the game winning field goal. And that is the ball game. So, just an amazing game, honestly. I was definitely very impressed by Bo Nix. I wasn't sure what I was going to get from him, if he was going to be making like a lot of mental mistakes, a lot of turnovers, but he did not. I think he only had one interception. And I thought Josh Allen was going to play a lot better. I thought this was his moment, but that was not the case. So just definitely very impressed by the Broncos and disappointed with the Bills in this one. And some developments after this game, we found out that Bo Nix, the quarterback for the Broncos, ended up having a fracture in his right foot on the second to last play of the game, and he's out for the rest of the season. And I was just kind of shocked to hear that, just because there wasn't really any kind of sign of that, like during the game towards the end. I think he got up after that play and everything looked fine. So it was just kind of very shocking news the next day to hear that his season is over and that the Denver Broncos have to go with a backup quarterback next week in their conference championship game. So just some shocking negative news there for the Broncos after their very impressive overtime win. And for the Buffalo Bills, they fired their head coach, Sean McDermott, um, after this game. And honestly, I think that's the right move. Um, Sean McDermott and Josh Allen have been together for quite a few years now. I feel like at least it might be 8 years or so. And this was their one chance to get to the Super Bowl and win it. And McDermott has not been able to get over the hump with Josh Allen and get to the Super Bowl and win it. And even though he's a really good coach, I just think it's time for a new person to come in and try to get the Bills and Josh Allen over the hump and get them a Super Bowl win. So those were the two big developments for both of these teams after this game. And we will see the Denver Broncos next week in the AFC Conference Championship game. All right, guys. So the second game on Saturday was quite different than the first one that we just went over. So in the second game, we had a big matchup between the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. We had Brock Purdy go up against Sam Darnold. Both of these teams are in the same division, NFC West. They are very familiar with each other. And unlike the first game, which was very competitive between the Bills and Broncos, this one was not competitive at all. It was a big blowout. The Seattle Seahawks beat the San Francisco 49ers 41-6. And that's pretty much the main summary of it. They just dominated the 49ers in all aspects. And as a viewer, it wasn't definitely a very entertaining game to watch, but nonetheless, I was very impressed by the Seahawks and their defense, and the 49ers were just outmatched in this game. Let's check out the game leaders in this one. So for the San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy, he went 15 for 27, 140 yards, zero touchdowns, one interception. So their offense just could not get anything going. It was one of Brock's worst games, and he just didn't have a lot of help in this one. He had 37 yards rushing as well. Let's jump over to the Seahawks side. Sam Darnold, 12 for 17, 124 yards, one touchdown. So just a okay game by Sam Darnold. They didn't really need him much in this one. He was just kind of a game manager. Their running back, Kenneth Walker, had 116 yards rushing with three touchdowns, so huge game for him. And Cooper Kupp had 60 yards receiving in this one. So, not a very entertaining game in this one, but I was definitely excited to watch this game. Um, Going into it, I did pick the Seattle Seahawks to win the game. I just like teams that are the number one seed and that have a bye week. They get extra time to rest, extra time to prepare, to get healthy. And the 49ers, on the other hand, they've had a lot of injuries this whole season. And they lost George Kittle most recently. They lost some offensive tackles earlier in the regular season. So the 49ers honestly come into this game like limping and with a lot of health issues, while the Seahawks were pretty healthy. They had a bye week, and they definitely took advantage of that and blew out the 49ers in this one. Um, just some more thoughts on the Seahawks. So, Sam Darnold, I mean, he's having an amazing resurrection to his career. Last year, he had an amazing season with the Vikings. This season, he's having an amazing season with the Seahawks, who are a favorite to win the Super Bowl. So it's just amazing to see the success that Sam Darnold is having after not a very good start to his career in the NFL, but glad to see him having success again. And the Seahawks are very dangerous. Their defense is just amazing. Their running back is amazing. And they're just a very, very, very tough team. Their quarterback plays very solid. And we'll see if they win the Super Bowl. For the 49ers, I mean, nothing really too much more to say. I mean, I know they're disappointed with this result, but they really had no chance against the Seahawks. Again, too many injuries already. Their offense was struggling the whole game, and I'm not really surprised by this result. But I'm sure the 49ers will be back next season. They have a really good head coach. Their main guys should be back, so I'm sure they're going to have a good season next year. But we will see the Seattle Seahawks next week in the NFC Championship game. All right, guys. So the first game on Sunday was the matchup between the Houston Texans and the New England Patriots. And this was in Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, New England. We had CJ Stroud versus Drake May. Very, very intriguing game to watch. The Texans last week were able to beat the Steelers. Even with CJ Stroud struggling and having a lot of turnovers, they won that game with their defense. So I was definitely intrigued to see how their defense would play in this one, and CJ Stroud as well. New England Patriots with Drake May. He's looking like Tom Brady. He's got the Patriots back in the playoffs, playing really well. So it was definitely a very intriguing matchup to watch. Um, Going into this one, I had picked the Texans to win the game just because I thought their defense was really good, and I thought CJ Stroud was going to play better than last week, but that was not the case. CJ Stroud struggled again in this one. It was a lot of bad weather, and the Patriots get the win 28-16, and they move on to the AFC Conference Championship game. Let's check out the game leaders in this one. So for the Houston Texans, CJ Stroud, he went 20 for 47. So that's only 42% completion percentage, 212 yards. He one touchdown with four interceptions. So that's just very bad by him. So last week he had a lot of turnovers, particularly with fumbling. This week he has a lot of turnovers, particularly with interceptions. So two very bad games by CJ Stroud in the playoffs, and that cost his team in this one. Let's jump over to the Patriots side. Drake May, 16 for 27, 179 yards, three touchdowns, one interception. So a good game, solid game by Drake May. In this one, the weather was really bad, so both of the quarterbacks were struggling in this one. Wet football, very slippery, but Drake May still had a lot better of a game. The running back, Ramondre Stevenson, 70 yards rushing, and their wide receiver, Booty, had 75 yards receiving with a touchdown, and he had an amazing catch at the end that basically won them the game. So, very, very good showing by the Patriots, and they get the W. All right, let's talk a little bit more about these two teams and this game. Yeah, I mean, definitely going into this game and watching the Texans last week, their defense is just amazing. Um, and again, watching CJ Stroud last week, I was like, he's not going to have that many turnovers this week, but he actually did. Um, he's had 10 turnovers in the last two games, and that's an NFL record in a two-game span in the playoffs. So that's not a record you want to have for sure. And as a result of that, they lost this game. The Texans' defense was good enough. I know they gave up 28 points, but they were good enough. So CJ Stroud definitely dropped the ball in this one. Um, some people were saying that he should have been benched, but I mean, I don't think you can make that kind of decision in a playoff game like this. You have to trust him, even though he's struggling, but he was very bad for sure in this one. For the Patriots, they were at home. It was snowing. So it was your typical New England Patriots playoff game in January. Love to watch them play in January in Foxborough. Reminds me of Tom Brady. And Drake May, I mean, he didn't have the best game either. He had a few like turnovers and mistakes just because the weather was so bad, but he still was quite impressive. He had a big play to his wide receiver, Booty, who was able to catch the ball one handed and keep control of it. And that ended up win, being the game-winning play. So just very impressed by the Patriots. Um, Mike Rabel, their head coach, is amazing. Mike Rabel and Drake May, they're definitely reminding me of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. So big, big, big game by the Patriots. I don't think a lot of people thought the Patriots and Drake May would make the AFC Conference Championship game this season. So they've been a very impressive team for sure. And we'll see the New England Patriots next week versus the Denver Broncos, who I mentioned lost their quarterback Bo Nix for the rest of the season. So New England Patriots versus Denver Broncos next week. Must watch. All right. So the second game on Sunday was very, very exciting. It was a matchup between the Los Angeles Rams versus the Chicago Bears. MVP frontrunner Matthew Stafford versus Caleb Williams, who's having an incredible season. Two teams from the Midwest. So a lot of intrigue in this game for sure. Going into it, I did pick the Rams to win this game. I just like the Rams offense. I think Matt Stafford with Puka Nakua and Devontae Adams is a little too much. The Bears defense has been struggling all season. Um, the game was in Chicago with cold weather, so that was a little bit worrisome just because the LA Rams are not as used to cold weather as the Chicago Bears are, but that really wasn't that big of a factor in this one. So the LA Rams and Matt Stafford get a big win in this game. Um, Also went to overtime and was decided by a game-winning field goal kick. So just a amazing game on Sunday night. Amazing game to end the divisional round weekend. And the Los Angeles Rams will be in the NFC Championship game next week versus the Seattle Seahawks. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the game leaders in this one, see how the quarterbacks played. LA Rams, Matt Stafford, 20 for 42, 258 yards, zero touchdowns, zero interceptions. Kyron Williams, 87 yards rushing with two touchdowns. Puka Nakua, 56 yards receiving. So, not the most offensive game by the Rams, but it's understandable since the weather was really cold and the Bears defense showed up in this one. For the Bears, Caleb Williams, 23 for 42, 257 yards, two touchdowns, three interceptions. So even though Caleb Williams played well and had an amazing touchdown pass in this game, still those three interceptions, he's still turning the ball over a little too much. He's still a little too careless, and he's got to clean that up going forward. Their running back DeAndre Swift, 76 yards rushing, and Loveland had 56 yards receiving in this one. All right. So again, amazing game from the divisional round weekend. I'm not sure which game was more exciting, the Bills and Broncos game that went to overtime, or this Rams and Bears game that went to overtime. Both were very, very good games and very, very glad I watched them. So in this one, the Rams took an early lead, 7-0, and at halftime, the game was tied 10-10. So it was a pretty close game the whole time. At the very end, The Rams were able to get a touchdown, and it looked like they might win the game. But Caleb Williams drives his team down the field and has a play where he's being chased by like three or four Rams defenders ready to sack him. He runs backwards and just throws a bomb down the field to the end zone and gets a game tying touchdown. And it was one of the most incredible plays that I've seen. He might have the biggest arm in the NFL. His mobility is just amazing. And his clutch play and his highlights are some of the best in the game. But then again, he has these interceptions that are just kind of head scratching after he has those amazing plays. So if he just cleans up the basics, like those interceptions that are not necessary, and keeps these amazing plays that he has, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And towards the end of this game, I mentioned that they scored a game winning touchdown. And I was thinking that Ben Johnson, the head coach, he might go for two and actually go for the win instead of tying the game. But he went for the tie, and the game went to overtime. Both teams possessed the football, but the Rams, towards the end, were able to drive down the field, and they got a game-winning field goal and won the game. So just an amazing game, very similar to the Bills and Broncos game, honestly. And it was just amazing. Like Caleb Williams, just amazing touchdown pass they had. So I think the Bears should be very proud of their season. I don't think anybody saw them going this far. They had a lot of struggles earlier in the year. Caleb Williams was inaccurate. Um, we weren't sure if he and Ben Johnson were going to mesh very well, but they've had a very, very successful season. They should be very proud. Um, but in this one, even though I have some family in Chicago, I was rooting for the Rams just because I like the Rams, and I was glad that they won the game. Matt Stafford, not his best game, but he definitely should win the MVP this season. Um, he's got a lot of weapons: Devontae Adams, Puka Nakua, good running game, good defense. So the LA Rams, we will see them next week in the NFC Championship game versus the Seattle Seahawks. All right, guys, we have made it to the best part of the show, the part that I've been waiting for, the part that you've been waiting for. We're going to look forward to next week's games, the conference championship games, and we're going to make some predictions. So excited about this, and let's go ahead and get started. So this is the playoff bracket so far, and we have four teams remaining. In the AFC, we have the number one seed, Denver Broncos, and the number two seed, the New England Patriots. On the NFC side, we have the number one seed, Seattle Seahawks, and the number five seed, Los Angeles Rams. So, four of the best teams of the whole season, and they definitely deserve to be the last four teams standing. So let's start with the AFC Conference Championship game. Denver Broncos versus New England Patriots. This one is in Denver, so that's definitely going to be a good advantage for the Broncos. But like I mentioned earlier, their quarterback Bo Nix is out for the season with a fractured foot. So that's definitely going to be a big blow to them. Their backup quarterback Stidham is going to be in the game. So we'll see how that works out. The Patriots, they don't have any major injuries like the Broncos do. They do have to go to Denver and play there. So that's going to be a disadvantage. So in this one, because of the Bo Nix injury, I am going to pick the New England Patriots to beat the Denver Broncos. If Bo Nix was not injured in this game, I probably would have gone with the Denver Broncos just because their defense is really good and Sean Payton, their head coach, is really good. But I do think the quarterback injury is going to be significant enough where the Patriots are going to be able to take advantage of that and get the win. So it's going to be a really good game. Any of these two teams can definitely win it. The Broncos can win it even with their backup quarterback. All right, let's jump over to the NFC side and take a look at the matchup for the NFC Championship game and make our prediction. So we're going to have the Seattle Seahawks versus the Los Angeles Rams. This one is going to be in Seattle, so that's a big advantage for the Seahawks. Their home stadium and home fans are amazing, the 12th man. So that's definitely going to be a significant factor. The Rams, on the other hand, I think have a significantly better quarterback, Matthew Stafford versus Sam Darnold. The Rams have a lot of offensive weapons, Puka Nakua, Devontae Adams, but the Seahawks do have an amazing defense, and they're going to be able to mitigate some of the Rams' offense. So this is definitely going to be a tough game. It's hard to pick who the winner is, but I am going to go with the Los Angeles Rams to beat the Seattle Seahawks. And I know that the saying is that defense wins championships, but I think the Rams' offense is just so explosive with Stafford, Puka Nakua, Devontae Adams, and their running game and their tight ends. I just think they're going to be able to overcome the Seattle Seahawk defense. And on the other side, I think Sam Darnold and the Seahawks offense are not going to be able to match the Rams and Matthew Stafford's offense. So I'm going with the Rams in this one to beat the Seahawks. Either of these teams can definitely win the game. I wouldn't be surprised if the Seahawks win it, but I do like the Rams offense to get the job done in this one. Therefore, my prediction is that in Super Bowl 60, we will have the New England Patriots go up against the Los Angeles Rams. I think it's going to be the two MVP frontrunners going head to head, Drake May versus Matthew Stafford. So if that does happen, that would be an amazing Super Bowl. So we shall see, but let's go Patriots and let's go Rams next weekend. All right, guys, that's all I wanted to cover for NFL Divisional Round weekend. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did. I hope you got some value out of the content. If you did, subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the like button, make some comments about your thoughts on the divisional round, your thoughts on the conference championship round next weekend, and even the Super Bowl. And I'll see you guys next time, and you guys take care.